Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today, I want to talk about some poetry since it is Poetry Thursday, a wonderful day to examine some of the poetry in the world. And today's poem is all about bugs, insects, and their similarity to oneself. I am referring to I Refuse to Report Bugs to Their Creator by Brayan Salinas. For those who don't know, Brayan Salinas is a poet. It's someone who has taught creative writing, I think, in Iowa or New Mexico, one of many different places. And that seems to be pretty much it. They've gotten their work published in literary journals, and there's not a whole lot of other information about them out there, based on what I've searched for. So it's that's unfortunately the case for some of the poetry that we talk about on Poetry Thursday. But not everyone is necessarily going to be an Edgar Allan Poe. Or an Emily Dickinson type, or even a Robert Frost. Some people are going to publish poetry and not become grand names because that's probably not what they're looking for. But Brayan, like the poetry that I found from them, is still very fascinating, and I would very much like to talk about it. So without further ado, let's talk about I Refuse to Report Bugs to Their Creator. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. I refuse to report bugs to their creator. During roll call, a black beetle wanders to the sink near my toothbrush, and I say, "Poor thing, I better let you go." My father says you better smash that thing before it multiplies. I think he says the same thing about me. I lie awake at night and think about crunchy leaves crushed in the autumn. My mother sees 6 red ants running around the loaf of bread, anticipating their breakfast. She says to me, "Get those things off the table." My sister panics at the sight of a spider. She runs to the kitchen and screams bloody murder. I remind her we don't find scary things scary anymore. My mother flicks the grasshopper off her book. She asks how I am doing. I lie to her and say I'm doing quite all right. I smashed a bug with my shoe. We all do what we don't want to do. I see a cockroach on the ground. "Gregor," I whisper, "you better run fast." He says to me, "I only need to run faster than you." So that was I Refuse to Report Bugs to the Creator. In terms of analysis, there is a little bit we're talking about with this poem. In terms of narrator, the narrator is talking about the bugs that they're seeing, but also they're equating what's going on in their life to their experience with the bugs. So in one verse they say, "My father says you better smash that thing before it multiplies." I think he says the same about me. And so you see, the poem's not really about the bugs. Rather, the bugs are a metaphor for the maybe how the world views the narrator in the poem. Not really that significant and worthy of being crushed or hidden away so that nobody can quite see what's going on. You see their conflicted or not troubled relationship with their mother, with their father, their sister. They say, like, we don't find scary things scary anymore, noting how they're being forced to grow up and being forced to kill a grasshopper for their mother and not being very happy about it. So very clear that this poem is more about conflicted relationships than anything else. Another interesting thing about this poem is how it is structured, because you have like one verse on the left, then the next verse on the right, then the next verse on the left, and the next verse on the right. And I feel like you could say 2 different things about why that's structured like that. The first is the narrator has structured like their relationship with their mother and father on the right side of the poem. So all those verses are about the father or the mother, and the left-hand side is about the feelings that the narrator has and their relationship to their sister. So still about family, but more about maybe what they're thinking and their again, how they're being forced to grow up. So maybe that's how it could have been structured. But I also think that you could interpret this as like Salinas writing the poem in a way that is similar to how a bug would travel, like just crawling around or just wandering, not really in a straight line, going from food bit to food bit, and that can be somewhat zigzagged. So like this could be structured thematically, but it could also be structured in a way that's just an example of how bugs are, and so it's adding an extra layer to what the narrator is talking about. You also have to consider the title of the poem, I Refuse to Report Bugs to Their Creator, which, you could interpret that as like he refuses to tell God about bugs so that they can be smashed. But you could also say this is, more metaphorical, like he's talking about computer code bugs, glitches in the system. And maybe, again, the narrator feels like a glitch in the system, and they don't want anyone to report them to the creator or something like that. That's furthered in the final verse of the poem, where the narrator says, I see a cockroach on the ground. Gregor, I whisper, you better run fast. He says to me, I only need to run faster than you, which is a bit funny there. But that's also significant maybe for two ways. The first way is he refers to the cockroach as Gregor, which is a reference to Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis, about a person who turns into a cockroach and becomes a burden on their family. Hey, that's the theme of family showing up again. But it's also significant because the cockroach says, I only need to run faster than you, which feels significant because, the narrator is feeling like they might be a burden, or that their family might not be all that interested, or maybe even disgusted by them for maybe actions or for just who they are, not really feeling like they belong. And so the cockroach is saying, I don't really need to run all that fast. I just need to run faster than the slowest person who is also gonna be crushed, which is kind of bleak when you think about it, and gets at this sort of rat race feeling of life. But that's how the narrator is feeling here. And so those are my thoughts on I Refuse to Report Bugs to Their Creator. A pretty solid poem. I really like the theme, how it's written, and the references in the poem. A lot worth thinking through, and I'm pretty sure you can interpret it in a number of different ways, and catch some stuff that I myself haven't caught. I'm going to put a link to it in the description. Read it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would love to have a discussion with you about this. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poem or this author or Poetry Thursday if they don't already know. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and bug-filled travels. Farewell.